Whenever people talking about the Scope 3 emissions, it's referring to the GHG protocol standard. So in the GHG protocols, they from the corporate accounting perspective, they separate the emissions into three categories. The scope 1 is the emissions from the direct process, and the scope 2 is the emission related to the electricities, the heat, and then everything else is rolled into a umbrella called scope 3. And it depends on which product or which business a corporate is involved with. The proportion of different scope emissions can vary greatly from industry to industry. So for the primary aluminium producers, particularly the liquid primary aluminium or the aluminium ingot producers, and the majority of the emissions is from scope 1 and scope 2. So for them, the scope 3 is very minimal. So for our members, they're facing the increase from their either the supply chain or their customers. They wanted to have a full disclosure of their carbon footprint of the products, not just a scope 1 and a scope 2, but a scope 3 because it covers a huge elements that involved in the emissions. So that's why from the corporate accounting perspective, they find it's really difficult, and sometimes they find it's almost impossible to cover the entire scope 3, given that it's just about less than 10%, sometimes even less than 5% of the carbon footprint of the primary aluminium producers' products. With various join plus the II Secretariat and also our members, the expert from the industry, we work together on the scope 3 calculation tools and trying to figure out what is the most material part must be disclosed and included in the calculation. One of the most important contribution from this tool is because for scope 3, based on the GHG protocols, there are 15 categories. So the result of the materiality analysis shows that out of across the 15 categories, actually, if the users of this guidance from the primary aluminium value chain, they can be specific with 5 categories out of 15, and I think the calculation result would have a very good coverage of the emissions. This tool is a public available tool, and it's downloadable, and so all the backgrounds, the data that we use in the tools is from the public domain. So for some of the emission factors that suggested by these tools, it's actually it's the emission factors either on the global level, or it is not the latest available data. So for users where you're using these tools, I would still recommend you to obtain the latest emission factors from your supply chain. And also, if the direct data cannot be obtained when you're using the II tools, just to be aware that the global average emission factors not necessarily exactly the same as your regional specific conditions.